There is a moment many people experience in real life, and it often feels more stressful than it should. You're standing in a busy airport arrival area, holding your documents, watching people move quickly around you, and you already know what you need to say in English. But the moment you try to speak, your mind becomes silent. You start thinking in your own language first. Then you try to translate every word carefully. And while you are doing that, the moment passes. The staff has already moved on, or the conversation has already moved ahead without you. That is the exact point where confidence breaks, not because you do not know English, but because you are not using it naturally. If this sounds familiar, then you are closer to fluency than you think. But there is one important issue holding you back. You are treating English like a translation task instead of a communication tool. And that is why even simple situations feel heavy. Now imagine the same airport situation again. You walk up to the counter. You want to ask where to collect your baggage. In your mind, you build the sentence step by step, checking if it is correct. You hesitate, you pause, and sometimes you avoid speaking completely. The staff then repeats a question, and you feel even more pressure, because now the conversation is moving faster than your thoughts. This is not a vocabulary problem. This is a flow problem. Your English is trapped inside your thinking process instead of coming out as a natural response. And here is something important to understand. Fluent speakers do not search for perfect sentences in their mind. They rely on simple, ready patterns that match the situation. They speak based on intention, not translation. So instead of thinking, how do I say this perfectly? They think, what do I need right now? And how would I normally ask in English? For example, in this airport situation, instead of building a complex sentence, a natural response would be, I am looking for baggage claim. Or could you please guide me to the baggage area? These are not complicated expressions, but they are smooth, direct, and used in real communication. When you train your mind to use patterns like this, something interesting happens. You stop freezing, you stop translating, and you start responding. Now I want you to picture this again. Same airport, same counter, same situation. But this time, you walk forward, you make eye contact, and you say your sentence without hesitation. Not because you memorized it, but because it feels familiar in your mind. The staff responds, you understand, and you continue the conversation without stress. That shift from hesitation to flow is what we will build step by step in this lesson. And you will see how a few natural speaking patterns can completely change the way you handle real-life English situations. One of the most common mistakes that stops fluency is overthinking every sentence before speaking. It creates a delay that does not belong in real conversation. In real life, people are not waiting for perfect grammar. They are waiting for meaning, clarity, and a natural response. When you overthink, your attention shifts away from communication and moves into self-checking. You start asking yourself if the sentence is correct, if the word choice is accurate, or if the structure sounds right. And in that process, your natural response disappears. What remains is hesitation. Now, let's stay in that airport situation for a moment. You finally reach the counter again. The officer asks a simple question about your destination or luggage. You understand it. But instead of answering, your mind starts rearranging the sentence. You know what to say, but you are not saying it. That gap between understanding and speaking is where fluency feels blocked. The second mistake is translating mentally from your first language into English. This is a slow process, and it makes your speech feel unnatural. Native-like communication does not work that way. It relies on direct expression, not translation. So instead of building a sentence in two languages, you start recognizing situations as patterns. For example, when you need help, your mind does not build a full sentence from scratch. It simply activates a ready structure like asking for guidance, confirming information, or requesting repetition. In the airport context, this could sound like, could you help me with this? I am trying to find the correct counter, or I am not fully sure where to go next. These are not memorized lines. They are functional patterns that match real situations. Now notice something important. The transformation is not about using complex English. It is about removing mental delay. The moment your response becomes immediate, your fluency begins to appear naturally. Let's shift the same scene slightly forward. You are now speaking again, but this time your mind is not translating. You are simply responding. The staff says something, and you catch the main idea instantly. You reply with a short, clear sentence. There's no panic, no pause, and no mental struggle. The conversation starts to feel normal, not like a test. And this is where confidence begins to grow quietly, without force. Another mistake many learners make is waiting for full confidence before speaking. But confidence is not the starting point. It is a result of repeated simple action. Every time you speak without overthinking, even in a small way, you are training your brain to trust itself. So fluency is not built in silence. It is built in imperfect but active communication. Now I want you to imagine a small shift inside you. Same airport, same environment, but your mindset is different. You are not trying to be perfect. You are trying to be clear. That change alone reduces pressure. Your words start coming faster. Your sentences become shorter but more natural. And most importantly, your hesitation starts to fade. Now let's move into the practical side of communication. Because fluency becomes real only when it is used inside a live situation, not when it is analyzed in isolation. Imagine you are still at the airport, but now you are moving through it with a different mindset. You are no longer trying to construct perfect sentences. You are simply paying attention to what is needed in each moment. You approach the information desk. The staff looks at you and asks a question. This time, you do not pause internally to translate. You listen for meaning, not individual words. That small shift changes everything. You respond in a calm and natural way. Something like, I need help with my gate information, or could you please tell me where I should go next? Your tone is steady. Your words are simple but complete. There is no internal struggle because you are not trying to build perfection. You are just communicating. The staff replies quickly. You understand most of it. Even if one part feels unclear, you do not stop the conversation. Instead, you naturally use a clarification response like, sorry, could you say that again? Or I want to make sure I understood correctly. These small responses are powerful because they keep the flow alive. Fluent communication is not about understanding everything instantly. It is about staying in the conversation without breaking connection. Now, something interesting happens in this moment. You begin to notice that people are not reacting to your grammar. They are reacting to your clarity and confidence, and that reduces pressure even more. You continue walking through the process. At one point, you need to confirm your baggage location. Instead of thinking too much, you simply say, I am looking for baggage claim for my flight, or is this the correct direction for arrivals? These sentences feel natural because they are tied to intention, not translation. As you keep using these patterns, your brain starts adapting. It no longer searches for your first language structure. It begins to think in English responses directly. This is where real fluency slowly develops. Now let's highlight the transformation inside the same situation. Earlier, you stood at the counter with hesitation, silent thinking, and mental pressure. You were aware of what you wanted to say, but the process felt heavy and slow. Now, you are moving through the same environment with light awareness. You understand questions faster. You respond without delay. You even handle small misunderstandings calmly without stopping the interaction. Nothing external has changed. The airport is the same. The staff is the same. The language is the same. The only difference is your internal process. And that is the real meaning of progress in English communication. It is not about knowing more words. It is about removing unnecessary delay between thought and speech. When that delay disappears, your English starts sounding natural, even if it is simple. And simplicity in real communication is not a weakness. It is strength. So as you continue practicing, focus less on building perfect sentences and more on staying present in conversation. Let your responses be short, direct, and connected to real intention. Now, let's bring everything together and look at how this change goes beyond just one situation, because fluency is never limited to a single place. What you are building here is a way of thinking and responding that you can carry into every daily interaction. Think about a simple moment outside the airport. You are in a store, standing in front of a counter, trying to ask for information about a product. Earlier, this would have triggered the same pattern. You would pause, Translate in your mind, and carefully try to form a correct sentence before speaking. But now something is different. You already know that communication is not about perfection. It is about clarity and flow. So you step forward and speak naturally. You might say something like, "I am looking for this item," or "Could you help me find something similar to this?" Your voice is steady and your focus is on the message, not on judging your grammar while speaking. The response you get is immediate. The conversation moves forward. You understand more than you expected because your mind is not blocked by hesitation anymore. And this is the key transformation. You are no longer preparing sentences in your head like a written script. You are reacting naturally in real time. That is how fluent communication actually works in real-life situations. Even when something unexpected happens, like a question you did not fully catch, you do not freeze. You simply stay in the conversation. You might say, "Sorry, I did not fully understand that. Could you repeat it slowly?" This keeps you inside the flow instead of breaking it. And the more you practice this style of speaking, the more your brain adapts. It starts recognizing situations faster. It begins storing responses as natural patterns instead of separate grammar rules. Over time, you will notice that you are thinking less and responding more. Now reflect on the difference. At the beginning, you were carrying pressure inside simple conversations. Every sentence felt like a task that needed accuracy before action. You were translating, checking, and hesitating. Now you're responding. You are staying present in the moment. You are allowing English to function as communication, not as a mental calculation. That is the real shift from struggling speaker to confident communicator. And this transformation does not require sudden perfection. It only requires repetition in real situations. Every time you choose to speak without overthinking, you're training your mind to trust simplicity over complexity. So as you move forward, do not aim to eliminate mistakes completely. Aim to reduce hesitation. Because fluency is not the absence of errors. It is the presence of flow. Keep your sentences natural. Keep your intention clear. And allow your English to grow through use, not pressure. With time, you will notice something powerful. You will stop preparing for conversations in advance. You will simply enter them and respond. And that is when English starts feeling like a natural part of you, not something you have to manage carefully. Stay consistent with this approach. Practice small real-life interactions. And let your confidence grow quietly through action, not pressure.